what does people power look like, let's say, after January 20th, when Donald Trump has all the levers of power that a president could ask for?
Yeah, I think what it really looks like more than anything is people organizing themselves into groups and being able to stand up and to say to their members of Congress, to their senators, to their local, state and local reps, even at the county level, and say, "Hey, we are not for this." Even for Trump voters, they're going to very quickly realize that the things that they were promised are not going to come to fruition, and they are going to hopefully see the light. It's unfortunate that that's what it's going to take, but once they do, we need to be there to bring them in.
Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. I am so lucky to have on today Naveed Shah, who is the political director for Common Defense, the largest progressive grassroots veterans organization. And Naveed, I was doing a little research for this interview. I mean, we go way back, right? But I
Yeah,
forgot that we had co-written some op-eds together. So
that's
Naveed
right.
is also a partner in crime with me on a number of efforts. How are you feeling post-election? We're going to get into the pushback, but I just want to check in first. How's the team doing?
Ken, thanks so much for having me. Great to talk to you again. Right now, post-election, I'm feeling, uh, you know, I'm feeling like there is a path forward here for us. And I know that immediately after the election, a lot of us were dejected and felt like things were bad. But none of us can stay down on the mat for too long. Got to get back up and get back in the fight. And so that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
Well, that's the power of being surrounded by fellow vets, right? I mean, I know only a fraction of our audience members are vets, but I know everyone appreciates this community and what you in particular bring to the fight. And you're right, you can't stay down for long. I think it's absolutely essential to acknowledge that everything's not going to be okay. I push back hard on folks who say, take a deep breath, it's going to be fine, because it's not. People we care about are going to suffer because of this administration. But that's all the more reason to galvanize leaders across all spaces, but in the vet space in particular, and common defense is at the tip of the spear on challenging some of the more outrageous excesses or proposed excesses of this incoming administration. What can we look for from common defense between now and inauguration, and then after inauguration when we start seeing the Tulsi Gabbards and Pete Hegseths and others coming in?
Yeah, the names that we're seeing being floated for senior positions in the administration, whether it's Kash Patel as FBI director or Tulsi Gabbard as DNI, is definitely concerning, really concerning, because none of these folks are remotely qualified for the jobs that they're being nominated for. And more than not even being qualified, there are dangerous ideologues that could use the power of this position to make a real negative impact on the things that they're in charge of. I think what Common Defense is setting ourselves up to do more than anything is be a political home for veterans of across the board. We once we called ourselves a progressive group, but really what we're seeing now and hearing from our members, more than anything, is we're a grassroots group. We're opening our doors. It's a big tent, and we want as many people to join us as we can, because whether you are consider yourself a center right Republican or a moderate or a Democrat or a progressive or anything in between, you should know that Common Defense is the home for you, and that you can come here, learn with us, train with us, and get ready to push back on some of the crazy things that they're pushing.
One of the things that really struck me during the campaign was just how unlikely some of the alliances that formed were. And you're a perfect example of that, recasting Common Defense as a grassroots organization more even than a progressive organization, because I'm working with folks who in another political era I would have had nothing in common with. But the fact that democracy is on the line, literally, makes that the number one cause. And we can go back to fighting about the minimum wage and marginal tax rates and things like that later, because you get to have those arguments, you get to have those disagreements if the democracy works. But if the democracy fails, all of those points become moot. So I love to hear your approach to growing the tent. How are people receiving it? Are you seeing folks who a few years ago might not have seen the suitability of an alliance with Common Defense? Have you seen them come into the tent? Have you seen partner organizations working together with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's one of the things about this moment is that there are groups from across the board who are coming together that would never have come together before. Whether it's groups like Common Defense and Veterans for Responsible Leadership, or many others that have been out there, we've all come together because we recognize that we have our differences for sure, but I would much rather have a conversation with somebody about the minimum wage, about housing, about healthcare, that somebody that can actually have a conversation with, somebody that can have a spirited discussion and a disagreement with, but we're both on the same page that we ultimately want to make our country a better place, and we're in it for the American people. Looking at Trump and his administration, they're not in it for the American people; they're in it for themselves. At the end, that's it. They are not in it for helping anybody. They don't care about their voters. They don't care about their constituents. All they care about is making some more money for themselves and carving out some power for themselves and using that as their bully pulpit. If you're interested in actually building people power and helping people have access to healthcare, helping people get paid better for the work that they do, helping people be able to go to work and earn a living and have a home that they can call home, right? We're all on the same page then. We might disagree about how we get to those things, but we can talk about those if we're facing those an existential threat, because the Trump team is clearly more interested in grabbing and consolidating power than anything else.
Talk to me about that people power, because we get a ton of feedback on this show from folks who say, I'm with you on the severity of this moment. I know how bad things could get, but what can we do? Give us some marching orders. What does people power look like? Let's say after January 20th, when Donald Trump has all the levers of power that a president could ask for.
Yeah, I think what it really looks like more than anything is people organizing themselves into groups and being able to stand up and to say to their members of Congress, to their senators, to their local, state and local reps, even at the county level, and say, "Hey, we are not for this." Even for Trump voters, they're going to very quickly realize that the things that they were promised are not going to come to fruition, and that these tariffs are going to come out of their pocket at the end of the day, and they are going to hopefully see the light. It's unfortunate that that's what it's going to take, but once they do, we need to be there to bring them in. I think one big thing that I've seen on the left in the past few years is the demonization of every Trump voter as a racist or bigot or whatnot. And I definitely hear where that sentiment is coming from. However, we can't cast half the country, half the voters in this country in that light, because that's not the case. A lot of those voters are doing it for economic or personal reasons. They feel like Trump is more likely to look out for them than the Democratic Party is, and that's a huge problem for the Democratic Party to figure out. We're not going to do it by casting all these people out and saying that we don't want them anymore. We do want them. We need to show them the light.
We need to show them the light, because it is much more of a communications issue than a policy issue. We did a story recently on this Ipsos poll, and it had a lot of research behind it, showing that if you believed disinformation about crime, immigration, and the economy, you are more likely to vote for Trump by a massive, massive margin, which is, really alarming and frustrating for a lot of reasons. It means we're losing the information war, but it gives me hope in that I would much rather fight on that battleground than have to say that everyone who voted for Trump was a bad person. I think many, perhaps the majority who voted for Trump, did not know what they were getting. They're about to, but also did it based on bad information. And part of the fault lies with us in not figuring out how to communicate the successes of the Biden administration, the dangers of a second Trump administration. Tariffs are a great example. I mean, F around and find out means we're in that phase.
Yep. Yeah, especially once they start implementing the policies that they're talking about that are going to be harmful, people are going to realize that, oh, this is not what I wanted. I wanted prices to be lower, and it turns out that if you have a governmental leadership that's captured by corporate power, your prices aren't coming down. That's not what's going to happen. And even some of the corporate folks that supported Trump, when he started talking about tariffs, they're like, hold on, this is not what we meant, and they're trying to crawl that back now, but it's not going to happen. And then even the other things that some of his cabinet level nominees like RFK is talking about replacing high fructose corn syrup and Coca-Cola with cane syrup. Those things, like, the average person does not even understand what the difference is there. And part of the reason why we use corn syrup in our Coke and not cane sugar is because of tariffs. Like, there's a whole thing here that people just need to get educated on. And you can't expect everybody to know everything, but I think a big part of the messaging from our side has to be translating this to regular people.
It's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break here to let you know that we'd love to hear from you. Your comments, suggestions, thoughts about future topics and guests. Email us at info@thekenharbaughshow.com, and make sure to rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, and back to the show. There are some people in my orbit, in our orbit, who I think out of frustration more than anything are saying, let it get real bad. Let them have Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and RFK. It's a weird form of accelerationism, which we have studied on the right. I'm talking about the neo-Nazis and others who want society to burn to the ground so they can resurrect something in its place. I'm making that comparison because I really hate this notion of wanting things to get bad enough that people respond. I don't want things to get that bad. I think we have an obligation to push back wherever we can. How does Common Defense feel about this?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I don't want things to get bad because I know it's going to be people in our own communities that are going to suffer the most. However, there is only so much we can do. Right now, the Republicans control the levers of government at every level: the House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court. So we are going to be trying to fight back at the state and local level as best as we can. However, there are going to be certain things that the Trump administration and with the help of congressional Republicans are going to be able to push through. We're not going to be able to stop them with everything, and it's scary to think about what they could do in the next year or two before the midterms elections, and it's a lot.
Yeah, let's talk about the midterms, because I think if history is any guide, the Trump administration is going to overreach. Democrats are going to find, and progressives, you don't have to be a Democrat, but pro-democracy forces are going to rally. I think there is potential for an historic reaction to Trump's overreach that makes even 2018 look like a blip. How are you guys looking to 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, we're looking at 2026 and beyond, but looking for candidates that are willing to step up. We're looking for folks who are ready to get off the bench. And I've already heard from a couple of folks. I was just talking to another Navy guy last week, right before Thanksgiving, who said, hey, I saw what happened, and I feel like I should have stepped up sooner. And for everybody who feels that way, we're happy to have you join us. I mean, it's better that you're late to the party. We're just glad that you're here now. I think that more than anything, I'm very similar to 2016. We're seeing people who previously didn't get involved in politics are now getting interested, and I think I'm excited to see who steps up in 2026.
And when you say candidates, you're not just talking about Congress and the Senate. I mean, you're talking about a full spectrum pushback against Republican policies that are hurting the people we care about.
Absolutely, that's the biggest thing. As I tell people, is not everybody's going to be the next AOC, right? That's okay. Most legislating actually happens at the state or county level, right, or your city level. That's where the most impactful policies are passed. And so if you want to have a huge impact on your community, start local. and work your way up, because there's always a possibility of you being able to work your way up from there. And there's a huge possibility that you'll have a much bigger impact on your local community working on your county board of supervisors or your even your mayor's race than anything else.
Well, great to have you on the show, Naveed. Where can people learn more about Common Defense?
Absolutely. Please visit us as commondefense.us to learn more.
And is there space in the tent for non-vets? How can people who didn't serve in the military help the mission?
Absolutely. We welcome all of our supporters, whether you're a veteran, a military family member, or a civilian supporter. Sign up at commondefense.us and we'll send you ways to get involved.
All right. We'll put a link in the show notes. Thanks, Naveed.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for having us.